Go. So I'm not hearing any feedback at all. So I say we go full steam ahead. So welcome everyone. I'm so glad you could make it. I would like to introduce myself and say that I work with early stage e-commerce business owners and sales teams who want to increase ROI through sales engagement, typically through websites and social media. That's my gig. I love it. I've been doing it forever. And I call myself the Chief E-commerce Officer as a result, which is kind of a little bit tongue-in-cheek, but just to give you an idea of what my background is, I shifted from traditional marketing in 1993, and I've never looked back. Since 1993, I've served more than 1,000 businesses. I've increased sales on average by 20% and set up engagement strategies that attract consistent audiences who buy. As well, I'm very proud of my average, which is increasing ROI by an average of 30%. Okay, so today I'd like to talk about networking, and we'll skip through that because we've already done it. And so I always, whenever I'm talking about a topic, I always go to the dictionary, because I figure that's a great place to start. But typically in my industry, it's not actually right on. I mean, you figure the world is changing so quickly with digital technology. And I'm not going to read this to you because I'm sure you've all read it by now. The fact of it is that really clear? Well, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Is it accurate for today? Not really sure what you'd say to that. I made up my own. And I honestly believe that this is what networking is, a supportive system where businesses share information and services with other businesses. Now, you notice I didn't say take. And I didn't say sell, I said support. And that's because if you take one thing away from today, I want you to take away the fact that when you're out doing business networking, you should, we're all keeping our eyeballs peeled for somebody that can help us. But at the end of the day, I promise you, if you go into this exercise with the intention that you're looking for opportunities to help other people, what goes around comes around. And it doesn't really matter, what, there's all sorts of quotes, all sorts of different beliefs wrapped around that. The fact of it is it works. I built my business on it. And I'm going to stress that no matter what you do in business networking, always look out for people and see if you can help them. Because what happens if you help somebody? Typically, if somebody helps me, I can tell you that the very first thing I think of is, geez, that's really good. That made me feel good. Does anybody remember the quote Maya Angelou says, people will forget what you say, but they'll never forget how you make them feel. And I love that quote because it's so true. If somebody touches my heart, they're in my heart. And so I want you to think about when you're looking out there, look for opportunities to help people. Once you make somebody feel good because you've helped them, then chances are, and it's not that you do it for this, but the fact of it is when somebody does something for you and they make you feel good, what do you want to do back? You want to help them back. You're going to look for opportunities to help them back. And wouldn't it be great to go networking and maybe help a dozen people and then have a dozen people looking out for you? It's a phenomenal strategy, but really, I could end this workshop right now and say that is the trick to networking. Okay, that is right alone, that is the trick to networking. But there are some other tricks. I'm going to share them here. So lots of benefits of business networking, and I'm just going to reduce this window. Okay, let's just go back. So the benefits about fortifying relationships, it's about building relationships. I don't know about you, but I don't go to a business networking event expecting to buy something. I really don't. I go there to meet people. So why are people trying to sell me on the spot? I don't agree with it. It's all about building relationships. You're going to get exposure, retention, and referrals will go up as a result because you're top of mind. You will generate new leads, but again, repeat, this is not the time to try to pitch somebody on your services. It's about creating conversations. So you're going to expose them, educate them, train new sales reps and ambassadors. You're going to connect with other people you need to succeed, and you're going to help the other people feel good. Okay, so here are some of the tricks that I've accumulated over the years. I've followed everything about networking because I've had a lot of luck with it. And with anything that you do in business, if it works for you, you should do more of it, and you should get better at it and become a master networker. And I'd like to say I've done that over the years. I've taken every training I can possibly take on networking, and I'm constantly updating this presentation. So if there's an idea that you have about networking that works for you, and I'd really love to hear it. And I'm gonna open up the lines at the end of the call and ask you for that. So let's wire through these. So before you go networking, this is where I think a lot of people fall down because they don't do the prep. And you know what? We're all busy people. I get that. We're busy and we don't have a lot of time, but really preparation is the key. You know, they say if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. That is true in networking as well. So before you go to a networking event, here are some tips for your success. Number one, find out who's coming. Now, sometimes you can, sometimes you can't, but a lot of times you can. And if you can, why not have a list of the names before you go? Why not check them out and find out who might be an ideal candidate? You know, a lot of times when I go into a networking event, there's a chance to speak to 30, 40 people, sometimes more. And the fact of it is if I can have, you know, 5 or 6 conversations in a networking event, that's really good. So what happens if you go to a networking event and you don't know who to talk to first? Chances are won't end up, I mean, you might hook up with them by chance, but not necessarily true. So ideally, you want to figure out who it is that's going that you want to talk to, and make sure you walk to that side of the room and try to connect with those people. A lot of times with social media, we can check pictures ahead of time. And oftentimes what I'll tell you, is I will print the list. If I can get a list, in fact, I can tell you right now, I have a list of everybody on the call right now. Because you know what, when I'm talking to somebody and when I'm looking for people to talk to, I want to make sure I connect with them. So do that ahead of time. Arrive early and leave late, okay? Because there's networking pockets at the beginning and the end that a lot of people don't leverage. And you know what? I'll tell you, the beginning of the meeting is a great time to network because people that are coming in are nervous. You know, nobody really likes putting up their hand and saying, "Hi, my name's Sue Sutcliffe." I mean, especially if they're not Sue Sutcliffe. But nobody really likes to put their hand out. Well, the fact of it is people that people say to me, "Oh, Sue, you don't understand. You're not shy." Well, you know what? I used to be shy. The fact of it is I just got in the habit of being the first one to do it. And again, if you're the first person to do something and I make you feel a little bit more comfortable when you come in the room by me extending my hand to you, well, how does that make you feel about me? You're going, "Oh, thank goodness. I was afraid of coming in the room." You know, I can remember being in high school and going right to the side of the room. You know, nobody asked me to dance on the side of the room because it was obvious I didn't really want to be with people. You know what I do now? I walk right down the middle and I look for somebody that I want to talk to. So arrive early and be there kind of just outside the registration so that you can greet people as they come in. Remember, if you've got a list of who's coming and you know what they look like, you're going to know exactly who to extend your hand to. Not that you shouldn't be friendly to everybody. I'm also going to suggest that networking after the fact is a phenomenal idea too, because a lot of times, you know, if people are sitting there and they might have a lapse between that and their next meeting, you know, if they're hanging around afterwards, they want to talk. And how much better is it to talk to somebody that actually wants to talk to you, right? So you want to pack. You want to make sure that you have the list. If you know who's coming, print that list out. Make little notes as they're doing their 30-second infomercials. You know, bring business cards. Oh my gosh, it's so important to bring business cards. Try not to forget them. I keep an extra box in my car just in case, you know, because as soon as I realize I don't have cards, I'm down there again, because I know that when somebody says, "Oh, you know, I don't have any cards," well, that makes me think, well, kind of how are they at business? You know, are they really in business? I bet you they don't have a website too. Oh, that's just me? Probably. By all means, bring promotional material. A lot of times when we network, there's an area to put promotional material. It's a mistake not to put that stuff out there, because there'll be some people that just literally go to that, they're shy, and they'll go to that table and they'll pick up whatever you leave. And you know what? That's how they network. They go home, they look at the paper, they look at your website, they kind of stalk you a bit, and then they'll contact you. And so that's another reason why you want to show up early, because if I'm that type of person and I show up and I go to that table because I'm too shy to talk to anybody, if your stuff isn't there at the beginning, I'm not bringing it home with me. So that's important. Now, you should always have a pen or paper. because it's really important to be able to write little notes down. Like if you, once you get really good at networking, and I don't know how long, I know some of you have been doing it for a long time. In some, in some instances, you can talk to 8 or 9 people or 10 people, and then you come home and you go, oh, what was that? There was somebody, which one was that? And it's unfortunate, but sometimes people's cards aren't that great. Now what I tend to do is I'll write a little note on the back. So, and by the way, I write a little note on the back of the card, but just so you know, don't let anybody see you do it, or ask permission if they're looking at you, because in some cultures that's really that's really disrespectful. Okay. But you might want to say, you might want to maybe turn your back and just kind of make a little note there so that you know what you're going to follow up with them on. Now, you have to come dressed for success. You got to look the part. Having a name tag here, especially if it's your own, especially if you have a name tag that's yours, not the one that came in through the door, because then that's going to differentiate you. Now, differentiating yourself is a great way to market yourself. You want to dress for success so that you have confidence and so that people are going to perceive you the way that you want them to, the way that you are. You want to dress for success. I can't stress that enough. And, I've had people question me and say, I'm a painter. I'm not wearing a suit. Great. You're a painter. Put on your painting suit. They've got those cute little shirts and the cute little pants. You know what? From across the room, I'm going to know you're a painter and you should be in that painting outfit. But you know what? You got to be looking good. Don't be wearing the painting outfit with a hole in it, because then I'm looking and thinking, how successful are they if they're wearing pants with holes in them? Can it have paint on it? Sure. Painters' clothes a lot of times have paint on them. Do they have to, is it wrinkled? Yeah. If their stuff is wrinkled, maybe they're not too much attention to quality. So maybe when I look at the ceiling, I'm not going to see that nice smooth line that I want between the beautiful blue, say, that Sherry Ann has to the white, right? Okay, so that's kind of looking the part. And then I'm going to suggest that you also want to prepare for small talk, okay? Because small talk's really important. Creating conversation, creating rapport is all about creating conversations. And sometimes, and it's important to have something to say. And, there's 2 different ways to start a conversation. One way is with an open-ended question, and one way is with a closed-ended question. And if you really want to talk, closed-ended questions are not good. Open-ended questions are awesome, because what do people like to talk about the most? They like to talk about themselves. So you want to ask open-ended questions. So let me just talk about that for a second, because an open-ended question is something that maybe people don't necessarily know what it is. Now, an open-ended question is one that people cannot answer with yes or no. Okay, so if I went on to an elevator right now and we're stuck in that elevator, there's that awkward moment. When I was younger, I used to say something like, nice day, eh? Now, is that an open-ended question or a closed-ended? Well, I'm going to say that's a closed-ended, because I can answer it with yes or no. What's an open-ended question? Oh my gosh, I really, really loved the chair that was showing in your video, Sherry Ann. Right in front of the blue, it set the wall. That was gorgeous, right? Where did you get that? Or what's that color called? Now we have a conversation. It could be just like you're on that elevator and you say to somebody, ooh, I love that sweater you're wearing. Where did you get it? These are open-ended questions where people can't shut you down, okay? You want to prepare for the unexpected. So why not have an extra pencil for someone else, or an extra pen for them? How can you help people? Remember, always think about how you can help people, okay? Now, you want to prepare a really good 30-second infomercial. And so here are some points on how to create a really good 30-second infomercial. I'm not going to go into too much detail about this, because I could teach a whole course on this. So, but the one thing that you definitely want to do is you want to have it committed to memory. And you want to make sure it includes all the key stuff, because if you don't, you're missing opportunities. Now, it's a big mistake to go over your time. So you have to be prepared to flex. And that's why, I suggest people create a positioning statement and then work from there so they can expand or contract. But I'm going to tell you, it's a huge mistake to go over time. So if you're given a 30-second infomercial spot, don't take 60. Everybody is looking at you and going, wow, you're stealing my time. Okay. It's good to start with a question that's going to qualify the audience, because then they're going to be listening to what you say. I mean, how many times have you been in a situation where people are introducing themselves and all of a sudden you start hearing, yeah, 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 yeah. How about if I interjected and said, are you frustrated with social media? Are you tired of waiting on your webmaster? Those are good questions to ask, because when you start with questions like that, especially in a large group, they're instantly going to say, oh, that's me. And then they're going to listen to your infomercial. So there's a couple tips, but there's lots more I could get into there. So that's what you do before. You want to be prepared. You want to be able to speak to it naturally. And I can tell you, once you craft that perfect infomercial, once you've said it 30 times, it will roll off your tongue. It will roll off your tongue. And a good idea is to stick it on a sticky note and put it on the wall somewhere you're going to see, maybe by the coffee machine, maybe by the washroom, wherever it is that you're going to look at on a regular basis. Okay, so that's what you do before you go to networking. Now let's talk about some tips about what you can do during networking. So during networking, you're not going to read your 30-second infomercial until everyone's ready to listen. So what a lot of people do is they're sitting there really nervous. They're really not listening to what everybody else is saying, and they're looking around the room, and then they know it's their turn, and they're feeling sick. If anybody kind of relates to that, I get that. It used to be me. But I guarantee you, if you prepare, you will not be that person. But what you want to do is, rather than just start talking when the other person's finished, wait for a second until the room goes silent. Sometimes 2 or 3 seconds can be all it takes to just really take a deep breath, get ready to smile, hold your shoulders back, and make eye contact with people, and then go, okay? This could make the difference between a powerful 30-second infomercial and an okay 30-second infomercial. Now, here are 4 business networking don'ts. Now, these are my rules. You can take what you like, and you can eliminate what you don't like. You're not going to hurt my feelings. These are the rules that I have adopted. So don't talk about anything politics, religion, or anything else that might offend. So if you think about it, cocktail rules: no sex, politics, or religion. You know what? It's a good don't. Okay. Don't swear or cuss. Even if it's comfortable. Even if it's comfortable for your ears, the reality of it is there's a lot of people it's not comfortable for. So you want to swear and cuss at home, that's fine. You can swear and cuss at some business events, and some people will be fine with it. But understand, there will be some people that it just instantly kind of grates on them. And so think about that and make a decision. I mean, if you're not going after anybody over the age of, say, 45, you're probably okay. But if you are, you're not. Don't focus on you. Nobody likes a narcissistic me person, right? Focus on the other person. Remember, people like to talk about themselves. Don't do everything that everyone else does. Live outside the box. So I'll give you an idea. I created, it is a good prop to have, but I created pencils, and I give out pencils at networking events versus business cards. You know what? Everybody gives business cards. People go, well, I don't even use pencils anymore. It's like, it's always handy to have a pencil around with an eraser. And you know what? If they don't use it, it stays in their pencil case longer, right? Every time they go to reach for a pen, they'll see my pencil. And of course, my URL is on the side. Now, here are some do's for networking. Do smile. You look more approachable when you smile. And make eye contact. There's nothing worse than talking to somebody that's doing this, And, it's one area where our youth are having problems because they're so used to working with devices. It's hard for them to make eye contact, but why you really want to do that is because they say the eyes are the window of the soul. And if that's the case, you need people to sell anybody anything. You have to sell them on yourself. And the way that people are going to relate to you is by connecting to you. They're going to connect to you. They're going to get an impression. And if they like you, they'll be open to listening more. If they can't connect with you, there's a divide. Now, you know what? The police out there are given glasses that are mirrored because they don't want you to get comfortable. They want to make you nervous because they want to see what you're going to do when you get nervous. You don't want that. You want to build rapport, which means you want to connect with people's eyes. Now, here's a social networking tip that you want to do when you're using social media. Don't use a big, tall picture. Do a nice, tight crop of your face. Very same reason. Your picture will show very small on social media in a lot of cases. Make sure they can see your eyes. The results you get from social media, the amount of people that will reach out to you and connect with you will double just by having a good tight crop, okay? Do make the first move. You're making them feel more comfortable, right? You're taking away their fear. Instantly, you're making them feel comfortable. They won't forget it. Do shake hands. You know, I see a lot of people going like this. Oh, that makes me feel so warm and fuzzy when you go like that to my knuckles. You know, use disinfectant if you have to. Shake hands. Shake hands. And if you're not going to shake hands, touch them somehow and just say, listen, I'm not going to shake your hand because I have a bit of a cold. So I don't want to shake your hand. But you have to connect with them. And don't let them reach out your hand before you do that, because then, oh my gosh, how does that feel if you went to reach your hand out to somebody and then they didn't take your hand? It'd probably feel about as good as somebody turning the back on you when you start to talk, right? Do repeat people's names. I already spoke about asking open-ended questions. Be authentic and passionate and brief. You know, they didn't sign up for your story. You know, when somebody connects with you and they ask you how they feel, honest to goodness, you know, maybe they do care, but most people don't. Most people are starting a conversation. And so you could say, I feel kind of shitty today. I feel bad today. Well, you know what? How did you make me feel right now? If you asked me how I feel, and I told you I feel kind of lousy, how would that make you feel? You know, the fact of it is you're just making conversation. How do you feel today? I'm fine, thank you. How are you doing? Always put it back to the other person. They want to talk. You know what? You want to talk to yourself, then go in a mirror and talk to yourself. If you want to network and grow your business, you need to hear what other people have to say. So make notes. When people are doing your infomercials, if you have a list, you can make notes of the people that you want to connect with. Listen for things that they're looking for. So I am serving small businesses, or I'm serving, you know, painters. Oh, I know a couple painters, so I'll put painters beside their name. Now I can follow up with them after, even if I don't connect with them in a conversation. I can follow up with them afterwards and say, I noticed that you talked about helping painters. You know, I happen to know a few. If you'd like an introduction, feel free to ask. Wow. Now, how many people do that? You do that. You help people, and people will search to find ways to help you back. Okay? Mind your manners. So please and thank yous. You know, for those that grew up with it, manners, you know what? I don't think I could not say please and thank you. It's ingrained in me. And I feel very grateful that my parents raised me this way. Some people didn't get raised with manners, and that's okay. It's not too late. But somehow remember to do it. It makes all the world a difference. And make introductions. You know, that's another way that you can help people. So if there's two of you talking and somebody comes up to you, you can greet them, introduce yourself, and then introduce them to the person you're with. Again, you've done something really nice for that person. You don't know how that's going to work out. Now, here are three of my secret weapons, okay? Because we all know that person that just is horrible to network with. They go to all these events, they shove their cards at you, and they want to talk all about themselves. They're not at all interested in helping you. All they want is to sell you something. And, you know, if you look at the stereotypical insurance people from the past, or used car salespeople, you know, there's these people out there networking that you just get, oh, they're like piranhas. And you know, I could name some names. I know that the people on the call today know some people like this. These three phrases are really powerful. So you get stuck with somebody, and you know, a great way to do it is introduce them to somebody else. Okay, yeah, you threw them under the bus. So maybe you want to throw somebody under the bus that you don't really care for. I don't know. Please let me introduce you to so and so, and then you can walk away. You can literally introduce them and then walk away. Please excuse me. Sorry, please excuse me. You don't have to explain why you're going. You know what? A lot of times I'll have my phone, I'll grab my phone out of the thing and look at it and say, sorry, please excuse me. And then you start walking. You know what? You don't have to have a conversation about why you have to leave. It's not their right to monopolize your ears. Now, the third one is my absolute favorite because I can do it on my forehead. I can do it on my forehead since I was a little girl serving tea at my mom's Girl Guide meetings. Because she used to host, there'd be 30 women in my living room, and I used to serve tea. So I can do it on my forehead. And when you do it for everybody, you never get it done yourself. So sometimes I had to learn how to say no. And I'll tell you, I still remember the woman that taught me this phrase. Her name is Leah Bandola. She's a life coach, and she's wonderful. She taught me this phrase, and it changed my life. I'm sorry, I'd love to, but I just can't. Now, here's the caveat. You can't say anything else. You can't say, I just can't because I have to do this, because if you do, they have something to argue about. You have to say it like this. I'm sorry, I'd love to, but I just can't. Now, at that point, it's possible to move, to walk away. It's possible. You just shut up. Don't say anything. You cannot argue with that. If you say anything more, they can. So you might want to take a screenshot of this screen, by the way. Take a snapshot with your camera. If, in fact, you've got that on your head, too, that I can do it on your forehead. All right, moving on. So you've done your networking, you've prepared for it, and you've showed up, and now it's after the fact. Well, what are you going to do? Here are some of my tips. Follow up, and follow up quickly, because, time is of the essence. You may have met somebody last night that needed what you do, and they may have also met somebody else that needed what you do. At that meeting, at the meeting before that, you don't know. When the iron's hot, that's when you do it, right? So you want to add notes to the business card. That helps cue your memory as to what it was that you wanted to follow up with them for. Or if you printed the list, you can do it there. And you're always going to state where you met. So, hey, it was awesome meeting you at the Community Innovation Lab, Mark. I have an idea that'll help you. I'd like to give you a call. I'd like to give you a call, or I'd like to send you an email. Can I have your permission to do that? Or I have an idea that can help you. These are all great ways to follow up. Now make sure you add them to your database. It takes 7 times to follow up before most people will buy. 7 times. You know how, and I think salespeople, as a rule, typically quit after 3. Okay, I'm not sure of that stat. But it's somewhere around 3 or 4 or something like that. But and so the long and the short of it is most sales reps don't follow up enough. Now, a CRM is short for customer relationship management, and it's typically referred to software that helps you do this, and it's essential to networking. You can't keep it all in your head. And you need to focus on connecting and cultivating relationships. Instead of trying to phone somebody and sell them, try to cultivate a relationship and get an understanding of what they need and what they care about and what they think in a perfect solution. Okay? And make a list, work your list. So if you leave, maybe you didn't get a list going in. So they do the list of the 30-second infomercials go around, write it down. That's what I did. That's what I did. And work your list. So now I have this list. I'm going to add a date to it, and then reach out to people afterwards. You didn't get it. Sorry. Even if it's a case of, hey, sorry I didn't get a chance to chat with you at the meeting. Here's what I do. If that sounds like something that might help you, feel free to give me a call. I offer a complimentary consultation. It's a great in. If you didn't connect with them, you can just say that. They were there, right? You still have an opportunity. Like, don't let it stop at the event. They should be pleasant. And certainly there's rules and regulations about sending emails that you have to be aware of. But I don't think there's anything wrong with saying, hey, really wanted to connect with you last night at the meeting, and sorry we didn't get a chance to chat. I wanted to introduce myself. Here's what I do, and I think it can help your business. If you concur, why not give me a call, right? And you can template all this stuff. That's a beautiful thing. Is once you've written that email, you can send that to every single person in that meeting. Is the next day after a meeting really important? You bet. So when you book a meeting, you want to book another hour after that meeting, not directly after, but the next day, to make sure that you can do these follow-ups, right? You want to read and respond to blogs. That's a great way to get it. Look for ways to help. Always, always, always. Join and start conversations and open-ended questions. We talked about this. Now, for those of you who are shy on the call, I want to give you a trick, okay? Because walking into a room is tough, you know? I used to do a lot of networking, and when I started, all there was is boards of trades and chambers of commerce. It was a man's world. It really wasn't a woman's world. And it certainly wasn't welcoming, and I didn't have any experience. My parents are not entrepreneurs. In fact, the only entrepreneur in my family is a doctor. And I think I use that term loosely, because they're a doctor. They run their own practice, but it's different than running a business. So one of the things that I found was absolutely a trick that I learned from Nick Boothman. Now, if you're not following Nick Boothman, he is the world authority on building rapport. And he's a Durham region resident. He lives just on the other side of, he lives in Clarington. Now, he has books that have been translated in all sorts of different languages, how to make people like you in 30 seconds or less. I forget all the titles, but, you know, Nicholas Boothman, if you put that into a search engine, you'll find him. He's been all over the world. Anyways, brilliant guy, and he taught me a trick about networking that's pivotal. You know, you walk into a room, you really don't want to, you know, if you're shy like me, I am shy. The last thing you want to do is go in there and talk to somebody. But we already know what happens from Friday night clubs in high school if you go to the side of the room. You're a wallflower, nobody's going to ask you to dance. So what do? I'll tell you, and this works every time. You walk right down the middle of the room. Yeah, right down the middle of the room. And what you're doing is you're walking a little slower than you usually do. You are walking, your shoulders are back, and you're looking confident, and you're walking a little slower than you usually do. And you're aiming yourself to go right into the middle of the room, right into there's people all over the room, and you're going to go right down the middle. And what are you looking for? You're looking for two people that are talking. Really? You're not looking for somebody that's by themselves? No, heck no. You're looking for two people that are having a conversation. And then what you do, okay, you're going to have to use your imagination here. So this is person one, and this is person two. Can you see my hands? Okay. So person one is talking to person two. And so I walk right up to them and I look at person one. And then then typically this person will respond, and then I look at this person and I look at them. And then they'll start to talk to me every single time. Why? People love to be listened to. It's not rude. It's very, if people are having a conversation that's private, you can tell they're like this, right? They lean in. If people are having an open conversation, look at the person that's talking, walk up to them, look at the person that's talking, then look at the other person, and they will start to talk to you every single time. All right, so let's talk about social media and LinkedIn. You know, connect and follow with people, recommend, endorse, read their feed, you know, participate in groups, like, comment, and share their posts and articles. Those are always good suggestions. On Facebook, you can friend or follow somebody. You can like or follow. You can review or raise them up. You know, when somebody does a great job at something, like last night, the Spark Center did Ignite Durham, and there was 5 companies that walked away with a check for $25,000. And you know what? They did a first-class job of holding the event. So what did I do? I put a post out with the pictures that I took and raised them up for what they've done. You know what? We can't, you know what? Raising somebody up is just something that is just so good. What does it do when I do that? It makes them feel good. And you know what? What is it? How does somebody feel about me when I make them feel good? They're looking for opportunities to help me. Now, it sounds really self-serving, but that's the truth. Just look to see if you can help people. So in summary, you want to be prepared. You want a heck of a good 30-second infomercial. You know, there's an investment factor here because once you think you got it rocking, you might want to talk to somebody about how you can make it better. Feel free to call me. I do consulting on that kind of stuff. Remember your do's and don'ts. Remember your tips and tricks that we talked about. The 3 powerful networking phrases that I shared with you today: follow up, follow up, follow up. And lastly, it's not about sales. It's about cultivating friendships.